For 5 years, I lived a perfect life with my gentle, poetic husband. One bloody night shattered the illusion. A hidden file on his computer revealed the truth. Our love story was a lie. I wasn't his wife, I was his mission. A promise he made to my dead sister. I always joked that my husband, Sévérine, was the reincarnation of some gloomy poet from another century. For a software engineer, he was almost comically frail, his skin so pale it seemed to have never seen the sun. He'd get winded carrying in a case of sparkling water, and he had to physically look away from even the mildest gore in movies. Then came the night of the pileup, a chain reaction of screeching tires and shattering glass in a downpour that left us stranded on the icy street. My blood had frozen in my veins, but it was like a switch had been flipped in Sévérine. He moved through the cacophony of car horns and human screams like a blur of motion. Beside an overturned sedan, he tore the warped metal of a door off its hinges with his bare hands, clearing the airway of a trapped victim whose blood was blooming across the rain-slicked asphalt. His movements were precise, clinical, and possessed an eerie, inhuman grace. Stunned, I raised my phone and snapped a picture of him, splattered in blood, his eyes as sharp and fierce as a hawk's. I posted it with the caption, "My hopelessly delicate husband, playing the hero tonight. I think he might be a god." The comment section immediately exploded. One anonymous comment was quickly voted to the top. "That's not a normal rescue. The strength to rip off a car door, those ice-cold eyes in the middle of all that chaos, that's not human. Your husband is one of the blood kindred. Run, get away from him. You're immortal. You don't belong in the company of the night. Girl, they're messing with you. Why would something like that marry you? You two don't even have the same vibe. I'd bet my last dollar he's with you for a reason. You should look into your family. Any dark secrets?" Secrets. The only thing remotely unique about me was my sister, Liana, and she was gone, killed in a hiking accident years ago. Sévérine walked back to me, shrugging off his blood-soaked coat. Just like that, he was my pale, weak husband again, leaning on my shoulder, his body radiating an unnatural chill. "Sophie," he murmured, his voice trembling slightly, "my legs are giving out. Can we go home?" I wrapped my arm around his trembling frame, but inside my own chest, a tidal wave of terror was cresting. I supported Sévérine's weight, the heavy, sweet scent of blood clinging to him like a shroud. It wasn't the coppery smell of a normal wound. It was something else, cloying and dangerous, a scent that churned my stomach. It completely overpowered the clean, cool scent of cedarwood he always wore. Back home, I helped him onto the sofa and fled to the bathroom. In the mirror, my face was a ghostly white mask. I turned on the tap, scrubbing my hands under scalding water, trying to wash away the phantom sensation of sticky, warm blood that felt like it had seeped into my pores. Sévérine appeared behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist and resting his chin in the curve of my neck. His breath was cool against my skin, like a winter fog, lacking the warmth of a living person. "That must have scared you," he said, his voice laced with its usual fatigue. A wave of revulsion washed over me. I pried his fingers from my waist, one by one. "I'm going to make dinner." In the kitchen, I pulled out tomatoes and steak. The thud of the knife against the cutting board echoed my frayed nerves. I heard his soft footsteps behind me. "Let me, darling, you need to rest," I said, my voice flat. He didn't argue, just sat quietly at the dining table. His eyes never left me. I used to think his unwavering gaze was a sign of devotion. Now, it made the hairs on my arms stand up. I felt like prey being watched by a snake coiled in the shadows. After dinner, our daughter, Luna, begged for a bedtime story. Sévérine picked up a book of fairy tales, his voice its usual gentle murmur as he told her the story of Sleeping Beauty. Luna drifted off, and he tucked her in before coming back out. I was sitting on the sofa, the light from my tablet illuminating my face. I had a forum open, one dedicated to European folklore. A bolded headline read, "Identifying the kindred, strength, speed, and an unnatural reaction to blood." His footsteps faltered. "What are you reading?" I looked up at him, gesturing to the screen. "Just after what happened tonight, it made me think of all those urban legends." He managed a weak smile and sat beside me. "It's all just stories, you know, creative writing to scare people." He picked up the remote and switched the TV to a classical music station. "It's easy to talk a big game online," he said, tucking a throw pillow into my lap, "but when you're really in it, not many people can keep their cool." I hugged the pillow to my chest. "You did." I was terrified, running on pure, dumb adrenaline. He rubbed his temples, putting on a show of exhaustion. "My heart is still pounding just thinking about it." I switched off the tablet. The screen went dark, reflecting our two silent faces. "Luna," I began, my voice barely a whisper, "you said you chose her name because she was born on a night with a beautiful moon." He nodded, a soft smile in his eyes. "That's right, a moon as bright and clear as she is." "My sister's name was Liana," I said, watching his eyes, searching for the slightest flicker in his pupils. The smile on his face froze for a fraction of a second before melting into something even more tender. "Yes, it's a beautiful coincidence." He reached out, stroking my hair. "Maybe Liana is watching over us from heaven and wanted Luna to carry a piece of her with her." He had an explanation for everything, flawless, seamless. Later that night, I lay beside him, wide awake. His breathing was so even and quiet it was almost silent, as if he were in a deep, death-like slumber. I slipped out of bed and went to the study, booting up his laptop. The password was my birthday. I checked his browser history. It was nothing but coding websites and tech forums. It was too clean, too sterile for a normal man's computer. Taking a deep breath, I found a hidden, encrypted drive. It required a second password. I tried my birthday, access denied. I tried Luna's, access denied. My fingers, cold and trembling, hovered over the keyboard. Then, slowly, I typed in a new set of numbers. The date my sister, Liana, had died. The folder opened. There was only one file inside the folder, a document titled Log. My hand trembled over the mouse, the clicker feeling as cold as a tombstone. My heart was a frantic drum against my ribs. The file's creation date was the day Sévérine and I had first met. It had last been modified yesterday. I opened it. There were no words, just scanned photographs and sketches. The first photo was of me on a street in Paris, taken decades ago. I was wearing a vintage sundress, beaming at something off camera. In the corner of the shot, almost lost in the crowd, was a man in a black trench coat that seemed out of place among the tourists. It was Sévérine, but we had met 5 years ago at a friend's party. I kept scrolling. A photo of me asleep in a chair at my floral studio on its opening day. A man's jacket draped over my shoulders. A photo of me on stage, babbling incoherently after winning my first design award. A photo of me in a hospital bed. A man's hand in the foreground, meticulously peeling an apple. On and on they went. A secret history of my life's most important moments. And in every single one, there he was, sometimes in the light, sometimes a shadow in the darkness. He wasn't my husband, he was my chronicler. At the very end of the log was a single, faded photograph. A young Liana, fierce and beautiful, leaned against a vintage motorcycle. Standing beside her was a young man, tall and sharp-featured. His energy was harder, colder than the man I knew, but there was no mistaking him. It was Sévérine, and in the photo, there was no trace of the frail man I knew. His eyes held the hard gleam of polished steel. I zoomed in. There was writing on the back. I used a photo editor to invert the colors, and a line of elegant, forceful script appeared. Sévérine, if I can no longer see the sun, promise me you'll keep Sophie safe. Let her live her whole life in the daylight. It was dated the day before her hiking accident, my fairy tale romance, my carefully built family. It was all a mission, the fulfillment of a dying wish, made by one woman to another, a promise being carried out by an ancient vampire, a 5-year-long assignment. The next morning, I dressed Luna. How about we go stay with grandma for a few days? Sévérine came out of the bedroom and froze, seeing us dressed and ready to go. Sophie, it's not the weekend. What's? My mom misses Luna. I cut him off. Can you give us a ride? He drove us to my mother's apartment building. I got out, holding Luna in my arms. I'll come get you both tonight, Sévérine said. Don't worry about it. I shut the car door. We'll stay a couple of days. You should focus on work. He studied my face, his own gaze searching. I forced a smile, then turned and walked away without looking back. In my old childhood room, I pulled a dusty box from under the bed, Liana's things. I sifted through them until I found her last photo album. Tucked between the pages was the original photograph. The paper felt old, authentic. It was the same one from his computer. It was all real. That evening, Sévérine called. Darling, when are you and Luna coming back? The house feels so cold without you. He sounded exhausted. Let's just stay one more night. Luna doesn't want to leave, I said, my own voice sounding strangely calm and distant. After I hung up, my mother came in. Sophie, did your sister, did she ever mention a friend named Sévérine? I stiffened. Why do you ask? I just remember right before her accident, Liana called home one day. She sounded so sad. She said she'd met someone very special, someone like a knight from the darkness, but also like an endless abyss. She told me that if anything ever happened to her, she hoped that knight would protect us for her. In that